As I talked with House Republican leading the efforts to discourage the use of fossil fuels, Florida Congressman and House member of the Ways and Means Committee, Carlos Curbelo. Take a listen to what he said.
So this is legislation that recognizes the cost of carbon emissions, it prices carbon, and it takes the revenues and invests in one of the more popular ideas in our country, which is infrastructure investment. We know that the current system to fund our country's infrastructure is broken, it's insufficient, and what we do here is we marry two very popular and important concepts: infrastructure investment and reducing carbon emissions to mitigate against climate change. Bring those two together and get a good bill that could provide certainty for the future and relief for so many Americans who are stuck in traffic congestion in my community and all over the country.
Traffic is all over the country. Now, I was crunching the numbers, and it's anywhere from like $57 billion to $107 billion worth of revenue for infrastructure.
That's right, and we do that by repealing the discriminatory gas tax. The gas tax is paid by lower and middle income Americans who can't afford the most fuel-efficient vehicles, who can't afford the electric vehicles that don't fill up at the pump at all. We repeal that tax, do away with it, recognize that there's a cost to carbon, impose a tax there, and that way we ensure that everyone is contributing to our country's infrastructure. People driving traditional vehicles like me, and also wealthier people who can buy Teslas and other types of vehicles who today don't pay anything into the Highway Trust Fund.
No surprise here. This is a divisive issue amongst Republicans. Do you anticipate to get some Republican support on your bill?
I do. There will be more than just me as a co-sponsor on the bill. This is a new concept on the Republican side of the aisle, but it is a conservative approach. This is a concept that trusts consumers to determine what kind of future we're going to have when it comes to energy in our country. And we believe this is going to accelerate the clean energy revolution that we've been witnessing for the past decade or so, and that should be welcome news.
You know this. Republican tax guru Grover Norquist, he says no way, no how, no gas tax. This is going to raise the price at the pump for consumers for a couple of cents, 11 cents a gallon. This isn't the time after they just passed tax reform to impose this. That's the argument against it. Your response?
Well, Americans for Tax Reform is an organization that analyzes or considers tax policy in a vacuum. So what I would say to that organization and any others that are summarily rejecting this idea is, what is your solution to lower carbon dioxide emissions? In South Florida, we live at sea level and near the sea. So obviously rising sea levels is a real concern for us. And to these organizations who say, well, this is no good, my question to them is, how are we going to invest in our country's infrastructure, mitigate for climate change, and build a more equitable tax code?
You're talking about climate change. You're talking about how climate change is personal to your constituents, that your district has felt the effects and the impacts in real time of climate change. You know this. Some folks in your party don't agree with that. They might even question the validity of climate change. What type of conservatism are you now espousing, sir?
This is a new conservative movement. If you ask young Republican voters, 80-90% of them understand that climate change is a real issue, and because they're young and they know that they're more likely to see the impacts if we don't do anything to mitigate for this.
Forget age, you're seeing the impacts in your district.
Well, and for us, that's right. In South Florida, it's a local issue, and people are looking to members of Congress, to elected leaders, to solve problems, to address major challenges. We're already seeing saltwater intrusion into the Everglades. That's where our freshwater drinking supply is in South Florida. A real threat to our ability to live in what I believe is the most beautiful part of the country. So it's a local issue. It's also a generational issue. Younger Americans want to see action on this issue, and that's what we're doing.
Where's the president on this? Because he said some different things at various points.
So the president, I know, if not his top priority, certainly top 2 or 3 is infrastructure investment.
Yes.
And I truly believe that this is the only way that this administration is going to get the types of investments in infrastructure that they promised back when the president was campaigning in 2016. And I remind everyone, this might be the only issue where Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton agreed that our country needs massive investments in infrastructure. We need relief for those people stuck in traffic every day. And this also has a great economic benefit, because the better our infrastructure, the more growth and opportunity we'll have.
And I want to set some expectations here. You're on the House Ways and Means Committee, the Tax Writing Committee in the House. They're gearing up to release Tax Reform 2.0 in the coming weeks. ExxonMobil has voiced support for this legislation, part of a broader coalition, but you don't anticipate this to be wrapped into Tax 2.0, given that Republican leadership is still against it.
Right. This is a very early idea on the Republican side of the aisle. What we want to do with this legislation is provoke a conversation, a discussion, a debate. As I tell my colleagues, this bill is open for amendment. If you can make it better, if you have concerns that we need to address, let's do that. But Republicans must have a solution for infrastructure investment and for climate change, and I think this is it.